with that being said, George, come on up.
All right, guys, how's everybody doing this morning?
Yeah.
Well, that was like not too exciting.
All right. Woo!
So, I've been listening, as I always do, almost daily to the Art of Exceptional Living by Jim Rohn. And a few days ago, I think last week, I was with Parker, and we were talking about mentors, and we were talking about the people who have impacted our lives the most. And I started just saying, hey, look, the majority of my mentors have passed away and are dead. And I always jokingly, if I ever say that, I always say, and I didn't kill them, just for the record. But, I started thinking about all the different people who've impacted my life. And since I've been thinking about it, of course, yesterday I had a dream of Mike Ferry, Amy, of all things, and which is actually all positive. It was a very positive dream. And we were standing there talking, and he said, I miss you. I said, I miss you too. It was actually kind of like, I'm like, that's an interesting deal. But my point is that there's so many people who will impact, right? I mean, you just said it, Patricia, like that it takes a village to get you here or raise us up. And so I just want you to think about that. There's a statement I've often made, and that is this one, and that is that when you're basking in the fountain of your success, when you're basking in the fountain of your success, don't forget who helped you build the well. That's the thing. I want you to just really think about that. We so quickly forget who helped us build the well that we bask in the fountain and the glory of our moments. And I think we all do it. I think that I do it. I think that we forget so often what got us to this point, who helped me get to this point. And I think if we can remember that, it creates a deeper level, not only of humility, but it also keeps us on a path of keeping our ego in check and making us realize that, wait a second here, I didn't do all of that I'm doing and everything that I'm doing all on my own. And I think it's a great reminder that wherever you're going to go, you're going to have others help you get there, no matter whether it's just someone who triggers a thought, who gives you an idea, who maybe someone who mentors you, coaches you, trains you, or someone you listen to, something somewhere along your path. There's been numerous people that have helped you get to this point. So just a moment of reflection for that. The second thing is I want to talk to you about the fact of this, and that is, I remember years ago, and I didn't hear this today, but I've listened to it enough times I've heard it, but I remember the late Jim Rohn, when he said, hey, his mentor, Earl Shoaff, said this, and this isn't a new concept to most of you, but he said, hey, you should go earn $1 million. And Jim responded, he said, hey, I really like the idea of that. And he said, but why $1 million? And then Earl Shoaff, his mentor, who passed away 5 years later after he met Jim Rohn, he said, oh, it's not about the $1 million that matters. It's about who you have to become to earn $1 million. And one of the things I watched a little video last night of a particular sales team and doing their thing. And, they were talking about technologies and systemization, and they were talking about all these different things. And I thought, that's interesting. Are they actually going to ever talk about what makes anything work? And finally, they just gave a little clip, because it was all these little, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and you're going to get this and this technology and that technology and this system and this strategy. And finally, someone mentioned in the little message, they used this word finally, and that is that it was leadership. And the thing that I've realized in my entire career, I think about this and coming up, nearly 30 years or 3 decades in the business. And I remember when I read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership early on in my career, it would have been about 2000, maybe 2001, somewhere right in there. And I read the book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. If you haven't read it, you should, or at least listen to it. I mean, it's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I mean, if you haven't read it, I mean, it is, one of the most printed, I guess you could say, books in the world. I mean, it's right up there with, I'm not going to say, necessarily Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, but it's up there.
I mean, millions upon millions of copies of it have been sold. And his whole thing about leadership is this, and there's a number of different perspectives in his 21 chapters, but the one that he talks about that has really caught my attention, where people feel stuck in not only in their own personal life, but they feel stuck whether they're building a team, whether they're building, a family, whether they're trying to attract the right people into their life. How do they become more profitable? How do they succeed at a higher level? How do they do anything at a higher level? And he goes on to talk, it's the second chapter in this book, but he talks about what's called the law of the lid. Now, some of you may be familiar with that, and really what the law of the lid really states, and he has a little diagram in there, and there's all these little people that are standing there, and then there's all these people underneath this other person, and my point is that what he really starts to go on to talk about is that this person right here will never lead others who they are not greater than in the game of leadership. And I remember early in my career where I was so intimidated to go talk to like a Joan Pate or even a Leslie Thorup or a Amy Clark, or a Justin Udy or a Dave Parker. Never in my wildest dreams did I think. I remember I even had the mental block of, well, wait, why would I go to them? And what I realized in my youth, when it was a struggle to go talk to these great performers in real estate, was because I knew absolutely for certain that they were better as a leader or as a salesperson than me. And so part of my inspiration over the years has, in so many words, tried to become the greatest leader I can, because I want to lead other great agents or great people. And I think that there's something to be said that so often we have this lid on our leadership. And what we begin to do is we start looking outside of us for all of the different reasons as to why something is or isn't working, or the speed in which something's not working, whether it's our personal business, whether it's, if you see a few team member leaders in here, every single thing will start with the way in which you lead. It's not going to come down to the system. It's not going to come down possibly even to the strategy. But what it comes down to is it goes down to still go back to what what Jim Rohn said, which was said a lot of things, but the whole thing, the reason why he wanted to earn $1 million was because of who he had to become. And the challenge is that we still, in this society we live in, we often look outside of ourselves for the things and the solutions that we want out of our life. And we look outside of ourselves to systems or strategies or the leads that we're calling, or the leads good enough, or I want the good leads, or no one's answering, look what the media is doing, look what rates are doing, look what the mortgage programs are doing. And so often we get into this fixation, and we get asphyxiated with the idea that everything can be fixed if we fix everything outside of us. And yet the challenge is, for each one of us, is that if we forget that all the solutions to what we really want to have happen is inside of us. And so that's why I've said for years that this job is about working from the inside out. That doesn't mean that you won't get a great system from someone, or a wonderful strategy, or an idea, or some innovation, or something that you learn from someone. But the real issue is, are you willing to look the person in the mirror and start working on that person? And that's why it gets old. People don't want to work on it. They want to switch and go, whoa, no, whoa, wait, there's something shiny there over there, and I can fix it with. No, you're not going to fix it until you fix yourself. And that's why I go back to these simple things early on in my career, and that is your mindset. Really ask yourself, what is your mindset? What is your belief system? What do you believe in? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in do you believe in your system, your strategy? Do you believe in where you're going? Do you believe that it's possible? Do you believe in simple terms that you're the best agent for the job, that you can get the job done, which many of you have heard me say that to you before? But this mindset has no shelf life. Haven't you had it where one day you show up and you're like, yes, holy cow, I feel good today. And then the very next day, you're like, I don't want to be here. I mean, I was thinking about that just back there when I was writing my journal. I thought, man, I feel so good being here today. And yet last Monday, I was like, oh man, I'd rather be anywhere else. And not because I don't like to be with you, but I just didn't feel like being here because my mindset wasn't as strong that day versus today. And my point to you is that if you recognize that, you begin to realize that your mindset is something that you have to work on every single day. It is something you have to monitor, you have to be aware of, you have to be conscious of, and you have to pay attention, because the thing is that your mind is almost everything. Even though your body, takes you somewhere, your mind ultimately is what leads you. So what you think about, what you say to yourself, what you believe has everything to do with how you succeed. But then it can go deeper, and all of a sudden you can say, well, wait a second here. What about my skill sets, right? The skill set of leading, the skill set of speaking, the skill set of communicating, the skill set of closing, the skill set of objection handling, the skill sets of listing presentations like Ruby and Jason are going to do here later this week. All of these are skill sets. And we've often talked about the fact that, yes, it has a profound impact on your mindset, but can you really speak to anybody? Can you set an appointment at will? Are you good enough, even if you have, those of you who have teams, right? I'm thinking you and Mike back there, somebody else have a team. I guess, Rick, you have some people work with you, but are you good enough to get them to set a point? Oh, you got, it's right, you guys, right? Are you good enough to be able to get people to do the job? See, the thing I've observed is a lot of people want to be a team leader and they haven't figured this part out yet. They aren't that good at it. Now you say, well, I'm going to figure that out with my team. That's fine. But there's something to be said that you're only going to be able to lead people that you're better than. So if you're looking constantly outside of you for all of your answers, just these two things of your mindset and your skill sets, you solve almost everything that's going on. And the problem is most people don't want to look at these things. They want to look at everything else, because this means you have to look at yourself. Like, wait a second, how strong am I mentally? How good are my skills? Am I really that good at it? I mean, can I set an appointment? Can I close the deal? Meaning, can I get the listing signed or the buyer under contract? And do I have an army of people that have already followed me because I'm so good at these two things? And you're able to just say, just do what I do and you'll be okay. That's great leadership. In my coaching, I've said this to Parker, I've said it to Amy, I've said it to Jay, I've said it to everybody, no matter who it is, said it. And that is, I'm never going to ask you to do anything I haven't done myself. Well, that makes it pretty easy when I sit down with someone like Jocelyn, right? Or I sit down with Patricia or Jason over the years. I'm not going to ask you to do anything I haven't already done. I can already do it. So let's go do it together. And the thing is that I observe in people that they keep looking outside of themselves for all of their answers. And yet the answers are inside of you. Then go to this third level or third principle, and that is the discipline that's necessary. And the thing that I recognize in all of our lives is that if you are not highly disciplined, you aren't highly skilled, and you don't have a strong mindset, you'll do anything you can to not deal with the realities of these three things. So what I mean by discipline, in the game of real estate, there's really only two things that you need to display and show or give as your real disciplines. You need to practice and you need to prospect. Now, I always like to write down exercise as a third thing, but if you can get those three things down and nail them, practice, prospect, and exercise. Sometimes there's a little acronym, put the E between the P and or the practice and the prospecting, PEP. But the thing is that if you could master just those three elements of your life, ask yourself, how much better would your life be? Well, this again requires discipline. This requires commitment. This requires being an example. This requires not looking outside of you. It requires you to look internally as to what you do every single day. And the thing is that the reason people have great respect or almost no respect is because of the way they display their disciplines. I would just encourage you that when you start looking at this law of the lid and your ability to lead others and your ability to just lead yourself, it's all going to come down to how do you think? What can you actually do? What are skill sets you can do? And the disciplines that you weave them with. And all of a sudden, when you start to figure that part out, this business becomes pretty easy. But when you start looking outside of those three things, and you start looking for all the other answers that you think are going to answer it, it won't. It won't answer it. Because the thing is that everybody's a lead today. Everybody wants to buy a home today. Everybody wants to, they can possibly even list their home today. And you say, really? If you're skilled enough, you'll find that out. And if you're skilled enough, even the average person knows 7 people that will buy or sell a piece of property this year. Every person that you meet knows 7 people this year. But when we're not good enough mentally, skill-wise, and our discipline, we won't be the one they refer. They won't be the one they think about to call. They won't be the one that they say, hey, I got to get a hold of that agent because we lack this. And so much of it is the discipline. By the way, the prospecting part of it would probably, I could put your SOI down there. And I could, is that a discipline? You bet. I've already sat down in the last 30 days with so many agents. What are you doing with your sphere? Oh gosh, yeah, I got to get to that. I got to do that. What do you mean you got to get to it and do that? That's the whole problem, is that we keep looking outside of ourselves when the problem is inside of us. It is our discipline, our skills, and our mindset. Jay, were you going to say something?
I was just asking what the 3 was, all right? You said that how I think, what I do, and I don't have something to do with discipline, but I've stated.
I don't know. Maybe someone else can remember. Jim, remember? Exercise. Yeah, exercising. Yeah, what we do, what we say. I mean, it may have been that. I don't know.
3 facets of leadership. I think it's what it was.
This?
Well, yeah.
Well, I don't know if
Well, it's part of.
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Today's.
Well, it's the message is, how do you lead yourself and lead others? And the challenge is now here's the other thing. You may say, well, wait, why can't I go get more business? Why do I not have enough business? Guys, just remember, people, this is why it applied. People say, well, what if I don't have a team? What if I'm just trying to lead myself? Well, this little diagram, you could put more people down here, right? A big triangle that's in the book that he has. Well, just assume that these are all transactions. You're not going to lead anyone that you're not stronger than. It's just the nature of the beast. It doesn't matter whether Jim doing loans or whether it's Jake selling a piece of real estate. You're not going to allow, people will not allow themselves to be led by people who are not better than them at leadership. It's the deal. That's just the deal. And the problem is that we think there's another deal. No, there is no other deal. That's why the whole thing comes down to this question: who must I become to, and you fill in the blank, to do what? To sell a certain number of homes? To earn a certain amount of money? Who must I become? Become with my mindset? Who must I become with my skill sets? Who must I become with my discipline? Who must I become with my leadership? Who must I become? Because everything else works out when we become that person. It has nothing to do with your system or your strategy. I can just promise you it doesn't. Because people will work through all of that with you if all of this other stuff is taken care of. But if you're trying so hard to not be in the business of real estate, so hard to not try to ever have to prospect, to not have to be disciplined, to just be able to wander through your life because you're shelling out opportunities to people on a team, that will be a major problem. Because that means you didn't do the 3 things that are required to be an extraordinary leader. That's the requirement. It's the entry point to your success. And if you will recognize that, then these people, instead of maybe even being team members, it's also transactions that each one of these people represent. And if we keep focusing on the market, the rates, the systems, the strategies, the employment, the inflation, what the president's doing or not doing, all these things that have nothing to do with whether or not you become the leader that you're supposed to lead. If people are leaving you and not wanting to be around you in a consistent fashion, I can promise you it has to do with your leadership. I got 2 or 3 team leaders in here. People swap. People are stealing people from my team. That is the biggest load of crap that has ever walked on earth, if crap could walk. Because it's ridiculous. It means that you suck as a leader. Just call it as it is. And people are more attracted to be with someone else than you. And we say, oh gosh, that's harsh. The facts. They think it's going to be better, so they go somewhere else. And it's just simply the law of the lid. It always is. They will go to the strongest leader, the leader who's going to make the biggest difference in their life. And if we're not making a big enough difference, whether we're an agent or a team leader or whoever we are, people start wandering and looking around. Whoa, maybe there's something better. Because we have failed in most cases with our mindsets, our skill sets and discipline. And if we have the stewardship to teach that, well, then our requirement is, can we teach these things effectively so people really understand what it means to be an extraordinary agent or an extraordinary leader? Make sense? Okay, so the deal is, if you want more transactions, you want a better team, you want more success in your life, it has to do with who you become as a leader. And you will only lead people that you are better and stronger than. You say it's a competition with yourself, And if you're still challenged with the business that you're doing, and you're only leading 3 or 4 or 5 people a year, well, that has to do with who you choose to become. Take a step back in these areas of your life. We just add one thing here and we'll wrap up. But in these areas of your life, ask yourself, number 1, in regards to your health, are you an example in relationship to your health? Or are you always, I need to get after that. Yeah. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do that. No, where are you in relationship to your health? Number 2, where are you in relationship to money? Really, where are you? What do you do with your money? How do you save your money? How do you succeed with your money? How do you help people with your money? What do you do with your money? Do you have a strong mindset around money? Are you highly skilled around money? Do you have great disciplines around money? Do I think you can learn all those things? Yes, I know you can. Because I used to be horrible in all 3 of them when it came to money. But I think that you need to. And then the third is the relationships of your life. And when it comes to the relationships, there's a handful of things that you have to really focus on. Relationships for me would be focusing on yourself. Say, oh my gosh, well, wait, you just put yourself before God. Oh, no, not necessarily, because I think God was within me. But I realize if I focus on myself with my own mindset, skills, and disciplines, my relationship for me with God, it's a lot better. So if I focus on myself, I focus on God, I focus on my intimate partner, and I focus on my children, and then I label everybody else as others. So myself, God, my spouse or partner, my intimate partner, children, and others, all of it will require a different mindset, a skill set, and disciplines. And we try to cheat the system. And that's just my biggest concern right now, is I keep watching over and over again, people trying to cheat this and forget about that. And so they keep looking continually outside of them for all their answers, when the very answers are inside of you. So get committed to yourself. Get committed to the right mindset, skill sets, and disciplines, to where the law of the lid, I would encourage you to read that book, but the law of the lid doesn't ever stop you from doing lots of business. But it will never change if you don't focus on mindset, skills, and discipline. It won't matter how many leads you get. It won't matter how many opportunities you get, how many appointments that you actually attend. It won't matter until you fix the real problem, which is always you. It's always you. And I always say this, no matter where you go in life, you go with you. So whatever you think might be the problem in any area of your life, in a marriage or money or your health, I gotta go to a different gym. I gotta go to a different trainer. No, the issue is your mindset, the skill set you put around any of those areas, and the disciplines that you put in place. And no one can fix that for you until you are hungry enough, you are thirsty enough, and you want it so badly that you will do nothing but figure this out instead of keep looking outside of yourself. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, Patricia. Patricia, is that your first morning meeting?
No.
Your second, all right.
So.
That's probably the better one. The other one was better because Ruby probably did it, but
So I listened to one on Thursday morning, because that's when I used to drive my kids to school. And then I thought that I could just do it every day, and then the first time I saw it, I'm like, I need to be there. So then I got someone to take my kids to school and someone else to watch my other kids at the home, and I'm here every morning. So I have to-
Yeah.
that's great work. And you'll move through that, right? Especially as you improve these things, but you watch people will ebb and flow in this meeting. And they ebb and flow in this meeting because of this. They lack mindset, skills, and discipline. And when it gets too bad, then they go, oh my gosh, I better get back. And then they'll get really profitable and they'll get some money coming in. And then they'll get comfortable and they'll stop working on their mindset, skills, and discipline because they think they've arrived. I mean, watched it for 20 years, what up and down, up and down, up and down. And the thing is, it's just humanity. I do the same thing. Right? Okay, let's roll.